Hello, good morning. So I decided that my life wasn't heavy enough and the topics I was talking about weren't heavy enough, so I decided to talk about religion and philosophy. Um, you know, two things that you probably shouldn't be talking about in public if you want to keep the peace. But I'll say this that it's just something that's been weighing on my mind for a bit, and I thought I'd like to just kind of get the thoughts out of my mind. So I can sleep better at night. Sometimes that's all you need is just to say things to get rid of them in your mind. So anyway, with religion and philosophy, I have to say this. Then I've been around the block a little bit. I've had different experiences in life, and I find that I don't make the rules. Um, I've tried to make the rules. Nobody seems to follow them. And what I mean is like what works. The way I wanted society to work is not the way society works. We are all individuals um, wanting whatever we want, and we just kind of have to learn to live with one another. Um, but we also, as individuals, we have this human nature, and it's not a very precise thing. So we kind of have to have a way of not making it all about ourselves and the things that we want to do. So in that case, I'm open to an objective morality that, we got to find out what works. What works for you? What makes you like the happiest, the most productive, the best friend, the best husband, the best member of society, you know? And that to me can be fairly objective. So what applies to me can apply to you. It's not 100%, but um, it's not completely random. And as far as subjective morality is concerned, I I kind of reject it out of hand just because, like I said, that what works for you should also work for me as far as happiness. Now, the flavor it takes or the theme it takes, that might be different. You might be suited to a certain type of job. You might need um, more social interaction. You might be an extroverted person while I'm fairly introverted. So social interactions kind of take it out of me. So when I'm done with the workday, I like to just hang out and just just recover from the day. While other people, they're just ready. They're just it just gives them more energy. Um, but I think the subjective morality, the morality part, I think that far too many people use it as a means to uh, justify their behavior, and ultimately, what the cause of their behavior is just whatever they feel. They're following their whims. And as we know, people who follow their whims are called capricious. They're fickle. They come and go. Your whims, it's kind of the joke is that we do something on a whim. It's just on our caprices. And so I kind of reject that attitude towards morality. So in this sense, like now that I've come to that conclusion, or at least sort of pension, I'm more open to the idea of there being a God. In a sense, like, as far as existence is concerned, we had to come from somewhere ultimately. So maybe it was God. I mean, so the thing is that the religious people who talk about him, um, they often paint him in a very cryptic way. And the things that believers believed happened in the Bible, for example, they would never believe them if they happened today. So there's a sort of credibility that religion gets as it gets older. That people have been believing these things for thousands of years, so therefore there must be something to it. Um, and I suppose it really depends on how you read the Bible, which kind of underlines the point of it kind of underlines the importance of theology. Is like, okay, what is this Bible talking about, rather than just the words on the page? If you take everything literally, it kind of doesn't really work. But if you read the stories, now even Jesus said this in the Bible. He says he speaks in parables because that's the way people understand things. They understand stories. They don't understand like really high level supernatural stuff, or they don't understand, they could not understand how the universe was created. So he kind of dumbs it down to their level because he's God and they're not. And the other thing about the religion that kind of I think fails to hit home with me is that a lot of the people who are doing the evangelization, priests, preachers, just random people who come up to you and try to talk to you about God, are some of the worst examples of Christians. There was a rash of televangelists, so people who get on the TV and talk about God, and they'd ask for all this money, and then months later they were found in a hotel room with a prostitute. Or people who are particularly anti-gay would be later found with a male prostitute or something like that. So they're not, that even in the Bible, people, Jesus calls everybody hypocrites, left, right, and center. You're a hypocrite. You're a hypocrite. You're a hypocrite. You do not hold yourself to the same standard you hold everybody else. Your standard is much lower than the one that you're making everybody else follow. Um, and also, I would say that a lot of people who are trying to explain God don't do a very good job of it. Um, they're just they're they just sound like idiots, and so it's difficult for me to kind of get on board with something where people just sound like morons. And we were talking about high level stuff, even something like the Trinity. Um, is when people explain the Trinity, they don't sound smart. Even the most brilliant priests and theologians, the moment they step into that Trinity area, they just sound like morons. Um, I don't. I mean, I kind of understand it, but I don't necessarily believe in it. But I just kind of leave that to the side and said, "Is it that really that important?" Um, so anyway, I think in a sense, like I'm open to God in the sense that I think if you have a creation like the universe, you're going to have rules to it, almost in the way that you would have rules to a computer program or a script that everything runs off of. This works, this doesn't work. And we could actually live a better life. Now, you could do it by following Christ's example. The Bible paints a very, very impeccable picture of him. Impeccable, actually, in the technical term, which means not sinning. There are no sins to him. Uh, but that's to say that maybe somebody painted that picture. I don't know. I'm not a historical religious person, or historical religious scholar, but it is a good example, and maybe you need to come up with a fake example to kind of make your objective morality better. I don't know, but I'm open to the idea that Jesus was alive. I'm just not 100% convinced. Now, so I was open to some aspects of religion. It's just that a lot of the religious people are just morons, particularly here in America. There's a certain brand of charismatic Christianity. Just I don't think you can feel your way through everything. We humans are very, we have a rational faculty in our brains, and we should probably use it when we're trying to make decisions on what to worship, how to worship, uh, what to hold important in your life, and what to let go. And if you just do it based on feeling, then I don't think you get good results. If you've ever seen videos of like rallies at Nuremberg, it's very easy to get excited by the crowd. If you've ever been to a sporting event where things are getting kind of intense, you can feel yourself becoming a part of something bigger than yourself. And while that could be sort of an amazing experience, it can also be a scary experience because you could find yourself without even thinking about it in a mob. Um, and we tend to just turn into animals almost instantly the instant we find ourselves in a herd. So religion kind of scares me a little bit, but I'm open to it. Also, I'm open to philosophy. I've been reading a lot of philosophy over the last few years. I don't consider myself a philosophy, but sort of a lay student. I've read things like Plato, Aristotle, Kant, Nietzsche, um, and one of the things that I find that it's interesting that there are interpretations of why we're here. What is existence? What is the point of life? Um, and sort of how you know you're on the right track of living your life, or what's the right attitude to take towards things, or even like developing things like logic. That's good. That's really good. Um, but on the other hand, they don't have anything concrete to tell you about how to live your life. They just kind of tell you. I think I've been reading Nietzsche, Beyond Good and Evil, and I'm about halfway through it. And all he's done is just take a massive dump on everybody who went before him. And I think, well, this isn't really philosophy. This is more of like everybody else is stupid except for me, which he has some interesting points mixed in there, but his writing is very cluttered. So you kind of it takes a while to read, even like the chapter's about 20 pages long, and it takes like hours to read 20 pages, and feel like you got it, or at least starting to get it. Well, so anyway, like, and I was thinking in the middle of this, like, what are we talking about here, other than he doesn't like Schopenhauer, he doesn't like Hegel or whatever, and like, okay, you don't like him. Why don't you like him? What else have you got? What have you got? What if I don't want to follow this guy? If you don't want me to follow him, what have you got for me? And so far, he's not really gotten to that point. Now I'm only halfway through it. Maybe he's coming to a point towards the end, but you got to sift through a lot of crap to get there. But so anyway, like I would say, as far as the philosophers I've read, I would say Aristotle's probably the best, as far as telling you how to live your life. But he's not giving you super concrete things. He's basically telling you what not to do, which is a start, right? He's telling you what to do, but just saying, okay, of all the things you can do in the world, let's talk about anger. So he talks about emotions a lot, or behavior, and say why something is good. So, for example, drinking. Now, if you drink too much, you become a drunk, right? It's bad for your health. You spend a lot of money on booze. You probably ruin a lot of your relationships. You probably can't work very well because you're drunk all the time. Um, and it just makes you angry. You've never had a clear head in your life. You're just avoiding life altogether. You probably let all your bills go, and your whole life crumbles around you if you just drink too much. On the other hand, if you don't drink at all, you miss out on some fun because alcohol is a bit of a, you know, an inhibitor. It takes away your inhibitions. And so when you drink a little around people, you become a little more social. You build social bonds. And so you incrementally go up, but there's a point where you need to cut it off. And that's the point where he calls the golden mean. Is there's a certain point where you need to stop and you need to find where that is. But he doesn't tell you exactly where. He doesn't say, all right, cut it off after the fourth beer. I suppose it's different for every person, but he never really gives you things that you should do. He just tells you what you should not do, um, which is a start, but it's still a little bit vague. And I think philosophy could take a cue from religion, and religion would have something like do X behavior on day Y because you have to, because God said so. And if you think about it in a sort of what does this functionally do? It might seem arbitrary that we do something on a certain day, but you got to do it, right? You got to do it sometime. You have to set a deadline for something to happen. So you might as well do it any day. Um, and so an example of this is actually a Jewish holiday, Yom Kippur, where you go around and you apologize to everybody whose toes you might have stepped on throughout the whole year. And it's good to apologize to people. You kind of bury the hatchet with people that whom with whom you had an argument, or maybe you did something wrong and you only realize it around Yom Kippur, and then you say, look, I did this back in February, and I'm really sorry about that. Can we start over? I think that's a good thing. That's a really good thing, is to reconcile with people. Um, and also, I think also, and I'm not Jewish, and never, I haven't read super deeply, but with Yom Kippur, you fast, and it teaches you how to do without food and drink. So it's basically it's setting your priorities straight once a year. It's almost like you're recalibrating yourself, and teaches you how to be a team player, right? So we just maybe piss fewer people off next year, and then realize that the food and the drink that you have, it's special. It's a gift. Even if you bought it yourself, well, you have the gift to go out and perform labor to earn money to buy that food. That all of this is, could easily be taken away. But all you have to do is look at world history. World history is nothing but war and famine and disease. And it's just, that whatever we have here is a gift. And I think that philosophy doesn't really think about things in that term. So, teaching you to do something once a year, it's like, some people might say, well, you can do this any day of the year. Yeah, that's true, but you don't. So you might as well do something where you feel the pressure, like proper pressure to go make amends. We humans are very reluctant to do anything unless we have to do something. Um, just think about your own life. Like when you were a kid, like you did your homework not because you liked it, because you were going to get in trouble if you didn't do your homework. And then you learn that like that behavior sort of is teaching you about duty, and is teaching you about how to fulfill your responsibilities. So anyway, when I think that like I like both ideas in sort of abstract senses, but I think that religion lacks nuance in its commandments, or maybe not like necessarily the Ten Commandments, but just sort of there. You have to appreciate the nuance of every situation. Like I said in a previous video, like that religion kind of commands you to give to charity. Well, is a homeless person begging for money charity, giving money to that person? Well, if that person's just going to go use it for drugs or alcohol, or no, it's not charity. If anything, that's the opposite of charity. Is basically giving them the means to make their lives even worse. So if you give them food, what are they going to do with food? Well, you could say in a roundabout sense, then they don't have to spend the money that they get on food, so they go spend it on drugs and alcohol. Um, so, but people do have to eat, and you're the one who gave them the food, so they made the choice to go get the alcohol. But anyway, religion might, people, or let's say it like this, people might use nuances given in a religion as a loophole, like a sort of special dispensation. Um, and I think that religion is often used as a means to justify crappy behavior in the same way that, subjective morality is. They're basically people. There was I think a Shakespeare line that says the Bible, or the devil will use the Bible for his own purposes. And that's very true, that people will find all kinds of stuff in the Bible and find it and use it as a way to justify their crappy behavior. Um, and I think that religion does teach you that, people should ask for forgiveness. Um, and and that's a good thing. And being grateful for the things that you have and maybe don't deserve, that you don't have an entitlement to. Um, I think the more you lose people along the way, you start appreciating the things you have left. Um, if and you basically understand that all of this around us is temporary. And so anyway, I think that on the other hand, philosophy is only nuance. There's very little practical advice in philosophy. That you can take you can take look at it and say it's an interesting thought, it's an interesting perspective, but what the hell do I do with it? How do I live my life this way? You end up very empty-handed after reading a lot of philosophy, other than, hmm, I wonder if, well, what do I do with this? If you believe in something that, you know, if you read for example, Plato. So Socrates goes around challenging everybody, telling them that they don't know anything, or at least kind of asking them questions, exposing these people as frauds. But very, very, very rarely does he have anything concrete to say about what is true and what is good. And he's basically, his project is just going around exposing know-it-alls, which is fine. But on the other hand, know-it-alls, like, you got to know something, right? And if you knew, okay, the Oracle of Delphi says know yourself, okay, know yourself. But what does that mean? Know your weaknesses, know your flaws, know what you like to eat for breakfast. I don't know. It doesn't tell you what to do. It just tells you what not to do. And that's fine. But I think we need a little bit more in order to, I like to have a checklist of things I need to do today. Do, do, do. And then by the end of the day, if I've done it all, I feel accomplished. I feel satisfied that I did everything I need to do. And when you do that, you also get this, not just a sense of satisfaction that you've done something, but you also get the sense of, hey, I did not just did a bunch of stuff on a piece of paper, but I did things I need to do to make my life better. And that's I think that religion and philosophy are missing that. So if I could, I would combine the two. And I just want something. I just want to be told what to do half the time. Okay, I need to do this, this, and this, and that's it. And and but I'm also the kind of person who needs to know why. Why am I doing this? Well, you need to do this because of X, Y, and Z. Okay. Well, okay, it makes your life easier that, if you get your finances squared away, you won't have to worry about credit card bills in the future. If you take care of them now, there won't be a problem later. If you let them go, then it's just going to haunt you forever. Or you go around, why do something like Yom Kippur? Well, it makes your life easier. You might be able to make friends with people. You might rebuild friendships. You might rebuild relationships within your family. And that could lead to positive outcomes that you don't even understand. Would you could never imagine what they were because you've just gone around pissing people off left and right, and you've never really apologized for anything like that. So anyway, I've gone on long enough. Religion and philosophy, I'm open to both, but they kind of let me down a little bit. Okay, see you soon.